will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the City of Plant City Board of Adjustment, October 27th, 2020. The meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yvonne Fry,
Here.
Board Member David Miller,
Here.
Board Member Robert Anders,
Present.
Board Member Judy Vogel,
Here.
Board Member Betty Goodwine.
Here.
All board members are present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, did you have anybody that had wanted to do any public comments via the online?
None were submitted.
Thank you. We do have our approval of minutes. If board members have had a chance to go through those and take a look, I will take a motion.
Rob Anders, I move for approval.
Mr.
I'll
Anderson
second.
and Mr. Miller for a second. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call that question?
Board Member Yvonne Fry,
Aye.
Board Member David Miller,
Aye.
Board Member Robert Anders,
Aye.
Board Member Judy Vogel,
Aye.
Board Member Betty Goodwin.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes for approval of the minutes. Thank you. Good to virtually connect with everybody. Appreciate y'all being here and your service on this board. At this time, would staff swear in staff and speakers?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. So we've got two cases today. The first is case BOA 2020-06, David Davenport at 1004 West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Staff, would you present this case?
Good afternoon. My name is Marlene Haney, planner with the Planning and Zoning Division, and I have been sworn in. Case BOA 2020-06. Hold on. Technical difficulties, one moment.
We're just trying to get the right things on the screen for everybody to be able to see virtually. If you would just hold for a minute for us.
Picture. Yes. Where do I point it?
Board members, are you able to see the presentation?
Yes.
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 Good. Yep, seeing it, yeah.
All right. Let's see. Is that a clicker on?
Yes.
It's on.
Where do I point
Give
it?
us just one more second.
Same thing with that. Okay, yeah. You're just gonna need to look at it from here again. For now.
All right, I think we've got it. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
Okay, this case is a request for setback variances. Whoop. Is it okay?
Yep. Yeah.
For a property located at 1004 West Dr. MLK Jr. Boulevard. The zoning is M1 Light Industrial District, and the future land use is industrial. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 102-657, 1, 2, and 3 for reduced setbacks. The required setbacks for the front yard are 35 feet. The applicant has requested 25 feet for a variance of 15 feet. Side yard setback requirements are 25 feet. They've requested 15 feet for a variance of 10 feet. And the rear yard setbacks are 25 feet. They've requested 15 feet for a variance of 10 feet. The lot has remained the same size as it was originally platted in 1923. It's 76 feet by 105 feet. The lot is 76 by 100. With the required setbacks, the largest building allowed would be 26 by 45, approximately 1,170 square feet. With the requested setback reductions, the largest building allowed would be 3,220 square feet, which is a floor area ratio of 40%, which is under the maximum allowed of 50% in industrial zoning districts. It is staff's opinion that the applicant did submit substantial evidence for the 6 review criteria in support of a variance from section 102, 657, 1, 2, and 3 regarding building setbacks. Staff recommends that the Board of Adjustment approve the variance request for a front yard setback of 20 feet, side yard setback of 15 feet, and a rear yard setback of 15 feet. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions at this time for staff?
Yes, this is Rob Anders. I've got a
Okay.
question.
Go ahead.
First, did I hear you say that this parcel was formed in 1923? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. My next question may not be it's strictly relative to the request, but it would help guide me. They show 3 parking spaces, 2 normal parking spaces and 1 handicap. Would that meet the requirement for a 1,170 square foot auto repair shop?
Yes, that would meet the requirements for a 1-bay auto repair shop.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anders. Any other questions for staff at this time? No, hearing none. With the applicant, is the applicant on the line? Mr. Davenport, would you like to speak?
No, I have no further comments to add. Thank you, though.
Thank you for joining us today. Any other discussion? Was there anybody else that had wanted to speak to this, Madam Clerk?
No other requests were received.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on this application by any board members?
This is Judy Vogel. I just had one question. Are all the other properties surrounding this property an M1 district?
Yes, they are. I have
Okay.
a slide. I have some extra photos that show the zoning, just in case this came up. If you'll hold on just a moment.
Okay.
Right here, it shows all the gray is industrial,
Okay.
and it's surrounded by other industrial properties.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay. I do have a question. You obviously, through normal protocol, you notified the surrounding landowners and no concerns or anybody had any other questions?
None received.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or a motion from the board?
David Miller, motion to approve as requested.
Thank you,
Betty
Mr. Miller, for your,
Betty Goodwine, second.
thank you, Ms. Goodwine, for your second. Any other discussion? No, Madam Clerk, would you call the question?
Board Member Yvonne Fry,
Aye.
Board Member David Miller,
Aye.
Board Member Robert Anders,
Aye.
Board Member Judy Vogel,
Aye.
Board Member Betty Goodwine.
Aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Davenport, you have your variance, and we wish you the best with this project.
Thank you, and y'all have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Take good care. Our second case today is case BOA 2020-07, Robert Collette, 801 North Wheeler Street. Staff, would you present the case? And I had forgotten to ask, you have been sworn in, if you would introduce yourself and indicate you've been sworn in. I apologize.
Again, my name is Marlene Haney, planner with the Planning and Zoning Division, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
BOA 2020-07 is a request for a variance regarding setbacks. The property is located at 801 North Wheeler Street in the R1A Single Family Dwelling Zoning District. The property lies on the northwest corner of North Wheeler Street and Sunset Road And the applicant is requesting a variance from section 102, 1256-4 to reduce the required side yard setback for accessory structures from 20 feet to 1 foot, a variance of 19 feet. Hold on. Yeah, that's good. The applicant desires to build a 24 by 40 detached 4-car garage along the southern property boundary. Because of the way the lot was split in the past, there is insufficient space in the rear yard to build a garage. The garage would replace the existing non-conforming carport on the south side and would extend an additional 2 feet beyond the existing carport. It's just, one moment, please.
We appreciate your patience with the technical difficulties today. There we go. It's back up.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
This slide shows a more close-up view of the site plan. As you can see, the proposed garage would be 1 foot off the property line. And then there is a 15 feet of grassy area before the edge of street pavement. I've placed a red line around the property border for clarification. The next few slides are street view photos of the subject area. This slide shows the existing aluminum carport. This slide shows the neighbor's detached garage that sits on their property line within their rear yard. This garage is 22 by 32 and was built in 1935, according to the property appraiser's website. Staff struggled with the recommendation as there were both several positive and negative aspects to this request, as were listed in the staff report. However, it is staff's opinion that the applicant did not submit substantial evidence for all 6 of the review criteria in support of a variance from section 102, 1256-4 regarding side yard setbacks. The variance requested is not the minimum variance possible because the size of the garage is much larger than the average residential accessory garage structure. If it had been smaller, of course, the setbacks requested would have been less. The applicant's desire for an oversized garage created the hardship. Granting the variance will confer special privilege that would be denied to others in the same zoning district. And granting a variance is not in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, because the intent is to place structures away from the rights of way. And therefore, staff recommends that the board deny the variance request to allow a reduction to the side yard setback for a variance of 19 feet. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Is there any questions at this time for staff from board members?
So this is Judy Vogel.
Go ahead.
So my understanding is that there is a non-conforming carport in this area already, meaning that the carport does not meet code as it exists, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So if the carport was torn down and a garage was erected in that place now, it would not meet criteria with any size.
Correct. It has to be built 20 feet off the property line. That's what the side setback on a corner is.
Okay. And this picture that you have up now, Sunset Street or Road, is that a normal sized road?
No, it's not. The right of way itself is 30 feet wide. The pavement, we're not sure of the size, but it's probably only 9 or 10 feet. There's actually 15 feet of grass to that left side going towards this carport. That 15 feet of grass, and that's where his property begins.
Okay.
Um,
My
as you-
next,
As you can see, the neighbor parks in what's probably the right of way. It's very narrow through there.
Go ahead, Ms. Vogel.
yes, so my question is this, is that road traversed a whole lot? My understanding is, and I'm just asking you, that road is not traversed a whole lot. Is that correct?
I'm not able to answer that. Is the applicant present?
Yes. We can
Perhaps they
table
could
that.
address it. Yeah,
We can table that to that.
Not sure.
Yeah. Are there any other questions for staff? I've got a few, but I wanted to defer to the other board members first. Ms. Vogel, did you have any others right now?
I'm just a little familiar with that area and that street and the location, so I just wanted to ask staff if they knew how regularly that road is used.
It's used, but I don't know.
Is it a one-way or a two-way?
It's a two-way street.
Okay. I don't see how that's possible, but
That was my questions. Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else have any other questions for staff right now? No, I do have two questions, just for clarification. Is this in a historical district?
It is.
And so are there any things that apply as a result of that for review or anything else?
If the variance is granted, then they would have to get a certificate of appropriateness, and it would just be a staff review to make sure that the structure would basically meet the main structure. I mean, match the main structure.
Okay. And my other question is on can you go to the picture that shows the existing? Yes.
Oh,
With the grass. You had mentioned there's 15 feet of grass between the property line and the street itself, the street proper that's paved.
yes.
Who owns that?
That's public right of way. It's considered public, or, most people refer to it as city, but it's a public right of way.
Okay, even though it looks like it's part of the property right now because the street is so small, so
Correct.
narrow.
If you look at the survey,
Mhm.
the red line is his property line. Then there's 15 feet. And then you can see where it says, asphalt road. There's a dash. It's at the edge of pavement.
Mhm.
So you can see there's 15 feet of
Yeah,
just grass.
okay. But their concrete driveway that they maintain is in
In the right of way, that's how most driveway
Yeah.
are.
okay. Any other questions for staff before we move on to the applicant? No, thank you. Madam Clerk, we have the applicant on the line.
Yes, Madam Chair, I do see Mr. Robert Collette on the line.
Mr. Collette, could you introduce yourself, give your address, and state that you've been sworn in?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Robert Collette. I live at 801 North Wheeler Street about 2 years ago, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you. And did you have comments you wanted to offer today?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Unfortunately, a couple of things. I know it was brought up a few moments ago that a standard two-car garage would not require as much setback. However, the way I've designed this garage, it is a two-car garage size as far as the width. The entrance would be from the east. You would pull in from Sunset, turn into the garage from the east. So therefore, it is only 2 cars wide. Even if I were to build a 2-car garage exactly where that carport is, it would still come to the same distance from the property line. I was also very, very considerate and looking at the setbacks, which my understanding is 15 feet, not 20 feet from the edge of pavement. So I was making sure I maintained the garage within my property boundary. As of right now, it would only come approximately 1 to 2 feet further out than the carport currently does, which was grandfathered in before the setbacks were set. I would also like to add in that I have discussed this with both of the immediate neighbors, the only other 2 people who live on Sunset. They are in full support of this and actually would like to have it built there for a couple of reasons. They have small children, and what very little traffic we get, they would like to see something that would help slow that traffic down for their small children. This would help that. It's also my understanding that at one point, one of the previous owners of this home actually owned that as a private road and gave it to the city. So that's another consideration there. I would be more than happy to build this garage anywhere else on the property if I could. However, because of the rear property line division, when they built the house behind me, that entire lot used to belong to this home. However, one of the previous owners built a second house behind it because of his aging wife. They drew the property line a little bit too close to the home for me to be able to do anything constructive with the rear yard. So far, I've been able to put a small shed back there, and that's about all the room I have for any type of home improvement. This is designed for a couple reasons. One is actually to improve the aesthetics of the property so that vehicles are not having to be parked outside all the time. I have also discussed with the contractor I'm using to make sure it does match the house as close as humanly possible, with the white siding to match the house, the black roof to match the house. I shouldn't have any issues with the historic board. My only concern is, as was mentioned, even the carport, which is grandfathered in, is non-conforming, which essentially leaves me with no place to park at my home. And I would like to have somebody to be able to put all but maybe one of my vehicles into a covered garage that would hide them from the streets, give a much more aesthetic, appealing look to the home. And in addition, it would increase the value of the home and the surrounding properties and allow for a better tax base for the city. Again, even if I were to condense this down to a simple 2-car garage in the same spot of the carport, it would still come as close to the property line as this one would, because you'd still need, excuse me, at least a 24-deep garage to fit the vehicles. Again, if I could build in my backyard, I would be more than happy to, but this is the only spot on my property where I can conceivably do this. And I would ask the board to take that into consideration, and I would ask them to consider that. Again, I am maintaining the 15 feet from the public right-of-way, which still allows more than ample room for cars to traverse up and down. In fact, there are some people pulling trailers up and down there from a road behind us that have no problem getting through. If you look at my neighbor's garage, this one is of similar size and much further off the road than his is, and they have no problem getting by his. Again, I've talked to both neighbors and they are in full support of this. Are there any questions for me that I could answer to help my case in this?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Rob Anders, I have a question.
sure. Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Anders.
When you purchased the property 2 years ago, were you a car collector then?
Yeah, to a certain degree, yes. I had 2 vehicles. I had a 1972 Monte Carlo, and my wife had a Camaro that she races. Since then, I've inherited a Model A also from my uncle who passed away. So those are the 3 collector vehicles. Then there are my 2 daily drivers and my mother-in-law's vehicle, who she does live with us at this time. And I do have an additional truck that would be parked on a concrete pad in front of the garage.
So when you bought the property, did you not see that this was going to be a problem?
Well, at the time I was told by somebody at the city that there was only a 10-foot setback from streets. So I was very shocked afterwards to find out that there was a 15-foot setback. Again, with a 10-foot setback, this would not even be an issue. But because of the 15-foot setback, due to the misinformation I received when I called the city, because I checked this with the realtor and somebody at the city at the time 2 years ago, I did not see a problem. In fact, as of right now, there's no problem parking the vehicles. They're just on the grass right now. And I would much rather have it much more aesthetically appealing than that. But again, because of some information I was given that was incorrect, I did not see this problem arising. I thought I would be far enough off the pavement to be able to build a 3 to 4 car garage. And in fact, I did submit a second series of plans that's 4 foot shorter for a side entry 3-car garage, but it would still be the 24 foot. Again, I'm planning on tearing down that old carport, which means there would be no really further intrusion into the 15-foot setback, other than maybe a foot or two, which would be very minimal. Again, I was trying to keep this as Sure.
Yeah, I think you're, and I may be wrong, but or I may be misunderstanding you, but I think you're misunderstanding the setback requirement is not to the pavement of the street, but is to the public right of way, which is on our drawing here on the screen is a red line. And you keep talking about you could meet the setback.
No, to the road, but I'd have to come closer to my property line.
Yeah, well, that's the setback requirement is to the property line, not
I'm
to
sorry,
the.
I meant to say the easement. I mean, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant to say the easement.
Mr. Anders, I'd like to ask staff to clarify that. We've had a number of things that are floating around 15 versus 20 versus 10. What have you? Can you offer a real time, what is the rule?
Yes, this is Marlene Haney again. The setback is from the structure to the property line. And in this case, the required setback is 20 feet for an accessory structure within the R1A district. When it's on a side street like this, it actually has to be the same setback as a main structure, which the minimum is 20 feet.
So he's asking for basically a 20-foot variance.
19
19-foot
feet,
variance.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Under the current structure, I would only have a 4-foot side yard to work with, which is unreasonable.
Okay.
I'll just make one comment. I think maybe the property owner maybe bought the wrong house and the wrong lot for somebody wanting to collect cars. That's just an observation.
Okay.
Again, when I bought the property, my understanding was I would be, there's already a carport there. I'm talking about replacing that. I'm not talking about building out on the home or adding, additional, taking up more structural space. One way or the other, I'm going to have my vehicles here.
Are there any other questions for the applicant at this time from the board members? No, I do have a question. And this may be, well, either one of staff or the applicant can answer it. Under the negative aspects, proposed structure is larger than the average detached two-car garage and would be intrusive. Is that indicative that if it was something else, it would not be intrusive or it would be agreeable? Is there a path forward to replicate the same size of the carport that's grandfathered in? Is there anything else that is under consideration or could be considered as acceptable?
Again, I did propose a second set of plans that was a 3-car entry from Sunset, but the issue we have is not the distance from North Wheeler Street, but the issue is the distance from Sunset. Even a small 2-car garage would still come out to that same line. I mean, even if I were to replace the carport, I mean, this garage is only 1 foot to 2 feet wider than the carport currently is.
Mr. Flynn, if I could, if staff could answer that question first, if there is something agreeable that they could propose, that then you could respond to, because yes, thank you.
I think either way, like he said, it's still going to be that close to the property line. If anything, like he said, he does have the entry coming off the side, but even if he shortened it, that's not going to do anything to the side setback. It's still going to be that close to the side property line.
If he replaced the carport structure with an enclosed structure, is that something that could happen with the same footprint?
You could. That's the code allows you to do things like that because it doesn't increase the nonconformity.
Right.
So you could do that. So yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a question on that then?
Sure.
If I were to back it up to the actual edge of that carport now, would there be any issue me going just a little wider towards Wheeler, since there would be no issue going that direction? Because the carport would be a little tight even for a 2-car garage. Once you put the walls up, you wouldn't be able to open your car doors. I could back that line up. That I could take that 24 foot to maybe 23 or even 22, the same as the carport. but I would need just a little more east to west width. You know, like I said, perhaps that 3-car entry, but with it having the same edge as the carport. Would that be acceptable?
You would need a variance for anything that goes outside of the current footprint of the carport. Because anything outside of that carport is supposed to have a 20-foot setback.
Would it be, this is Rob Anders, would it be something where the applicant could ask that his request be held till the next meeting and he would come back with a revised request?
Well, we would not be able to vote on anything that isn't in the package right now. So the reason I was exploring if there was something else that they could meet in the middle on that would be acceptable, that they could take some further time and withdraw today and see what they could work through.
Well, again, I did mention that at the time of my application, I would be willing to back up as much as I could, as long as I could still get the vehicles in. I would just need a little bit more width, and that would take it down from 40 to 36 feet. But again, it would be the same distance off of Sunset, with plenty of setback from Wheeler. And again, that single lane road, we even have issues with people pulling through our yards to pass each other on it. I mean, that is really and it's very poorly maintained as well. The pavement is broken in numerous places. It's not a good road. In fact, I'm really surprised it's even considered a public road.
Can I ask staff, and I don't know if you would be able to answer this, what is the story on this road? It's not a one-way. I don't understand how people can pass on the size of this, and
they drive in the grass if they do pass. It's
Okay.
not so heavily traveled that there's much passing going on.
okay.
It's only the length of 2 houses.
Gotcha.
But if they have to pass, they just make do.
Move over. Okay.
It's
Well,
primarily
question.
used just the driveway for the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
Question for staff is the grass that they're driving on is really in the right of way though, correct?
Correct.
So they're not driving on anybody's lawn or yard within their property lines. They're just driving on part of the right of way that hasn't been paved.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any further questions for staff or the applicant?
I'd like to make a statement. This is Judy Vogel. I think what I was trying to get at when I made my statement about that road not being traversed, it led conversation toward that road. Because I am familiar with it and familiar basically with the home and the homes on that road. With that being said, and not much being able to do, and another statement with that carport being there for 70 some years, whatever it is or more, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, I make a motion that the variance as submitted be approved because the applicant has submitted, I think, enough evidence proven that this addition or change to the garage or carport that's there, he doesn't have enough room to change or move the carport. And I don't think it will affect the surrounding properties. It's already 1 foot off the property line now. And what he's proposing to do, I just don't feel that it would make that much difference with putting up another garage. So I make a motion to approve the garage as submitted by the applicant.
Thank you, Ms. Vogel. Do we have a second on that motion? Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Is there any other motion?
Well, this is Rob Anders. I'll move for denial of the request.
Thank you, Mrs. Vogel, and I will do everything to make sure we change this board by the next election.
Mr. Anders made a motion to deny. Is there a second?
This is David Miller, second.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the board? Okay, so we have a motion to deny the application. Madam Clerk, would you call the question? So just to be clear, if you vote aye, you are voting to deny the applicant. If you vote no, you're not supporting the denial.
Board Member Fry,
No.
Board Member Miller,
Aye.
Board Member Anders,
Aye.
Clarify with Miller. Is he denying or is he, yes, he's denying it? I mean, no, he's denying it. Yes, he is not,
He seconded the motion, so he is,
Nay.
no,
No.
no?
no,
I'm voting aye for approval of the motion to deny.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Aye to deny.
Board Member Vogel,
Nay.
Board Member Goodwine,
I abstain. I don't understand.
Okay,
Madam Chair, this is Ken. All members will need to vote.
yes, unless you have some kind of a conflict on this specific case, you do need to vote.
Okay, then I'll say no.
Okay. Mr. Collette, you, no is,
Approval to build it.
yes, can we have the motion failed to.
Correct. Madam Chair,
Yes.
the first motion didn't have a second, so that didn't proceed. The second motion failed because of the lack of a majority. So there was a vote to approve the variance, which failed. There was a vote to deny the variance, which failed. You may want to suggest maybe a deferral for him to come up with other recommendations, but other than that, at this point, don't have a motion that has been adopted.
Well, Mr. City Attorney, the motion to approve failed for lack of a second. So
Correct.
it was not denied. So is it possible for that to come back in this meeting?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Is there somebody that would like to make another motion?
I make a motion that Mr. Collette comes back with more suggestion. This is Betty Goodwine.
Okay. And I don't know that we formally need to vote on that, but that would be a suggestion, Mr. Collette. We're faced with a very difficult situation here. And I think that you might have some ground with staff if you had some further conversation. I think they would certainly be receptive to that and helpful, hopefully. And we'd love to entertain an updated approach to this if you're able to review that further with them.
Okay, again, what would my steps need to be in that case? Because I've already submitted another garage that would fit the same width as that footprint. Just be a little bit wider from the viewing from Sunset. What do I need to do at this point then?
Well, that would be between you and staff. That wouldn't be in the purview of this board to be able to work through what your other options might be.
Well, the staff has been very unhelpful in this situation. I've been working with them for 2 years trying to get advice, which I've received zero.
Okay, that I typically don't find that to be the case. So I hope that you will avail yourself to reach out and sit down and have some further conversation with them. They can't, I can't offer much comment on this, that they're working within the confines of the code and so on. And so the variances have to come to us, but they do make recommendations, and there are ways, of course, for those variances to be passed here. But the board has to be comfortable with the approach and so on, and does rely heavily on staff with their recommendations. So I do wish you the best with this.
Who at City Hall does the staff report to?
I'm sorry?
Who does the entire staff report to at City Hall?
Bill McDaniel.
Bill McDaniel is the city manager.
Bill McDaniel?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yes. So
Thank you.
we will, do you want us to continue this to the next meeting to give you
Yes.
some time to work through? We'd be happy to do that, and we look forward to a workable solution to be able to come forward. So,
Well, from the sounds of staff, unless I tear my house down and build a cracker box, it doesn't sound like there's gonna be much I can do. But they only want the carport there.
yeah. So do we need a motion for that for it to be forwarded to you can just continue that? I'm asking staff this, or the city attorney.
You could certainly have a motion to continue,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
It'll be a continuation to our next meeting is on what day? November 17th. Okay, I'm not seeing that, but to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Adjustment.
It's in your inside cover.
Oh,
November 17th.
November 17th. So that way it's already on our agenda, and that gives you a good amount of time to work through and see what we can do.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your patience with this. We hope.
And I apologize if I come across as a little cross, but I've been working for 2 years on this.
Yeah, tensions run high sometimes. So thank you again.
Thank you. Ms. Vogel, is there a way I can contact you to discuss this a little bit also? No? Thank you.
No, I'll go ahead and answer that because we are a quasi judicial board, we can't have conversation with the applicants on things. It needs to go through staff with all of your communications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I couldn't have said it any better. You did good.
Thank you, sir. I could have let the attorney answer that, but there you go.
Everybody have a great day.
Yes, thank you, sir. Take care. Okay, is there any other business for our board? Do we have any absentee issues? I don't think so. No? All right, it looks like we will have another meeting on November 17th, barring discussions not moving forward, but we'll see. And
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, this is Ken Buckman. I wanted to mention that next meeting will be a live meeting. It doesn't appear that the governor will extend the virtual meetings through November, so that will, unless he extends it and surprises everybody, it will be a live in-person meeting.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that update. Okay, is there anything else for the good of the order from any of the board members? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for your help today on working through this. Have a
Thank
good
you,
day.
Madam Chair. Very good meeting.